Today I'm talking to Gerard Batten, who's a member of the European Parliament for London. He's with the UK Independence Party, which is a Eurosceptic party, and he's recently announced his intention to stand for leadership of UKIP. Gerard Batten, thanks very much for talking to RT.
You're welcome, Rob. Can I just put you right on one small point in your introduction? You described us as a Eurosceptic party. I'm afraid that's not true. Scepticism implies some doubt. We have absolutely no doubt. We're 100% certain that membership of the European Union is bad for Britain, so we're not sceptical about that at all.
And no disbelief in the fact that the European Union actually exists?
Oh, we believe it exists. I mean, we're sceptical about life after death, but as far as the European Union exists, then it's bad, and there is no doubt in any UKIP member's mind that that's the case.
And tell me about the platform on which you're standing for leadership.
My platform is that I want UKIP to go forward as a radical alternative to the kind of cross-party consensus that we've got in this country from Labour, Conservative, Lib Dems, and very much now with the coalition government, that they're quite happy to see this country become nothing more than a colony of the European Union.
And what are the key tenets of your opposition to the European Union?
Well, first of all, it's an economic and democratic disaster. First of all, there is no reason for the European Union. I mean, the way was sold to people 40 years ago and has been ever since, is that we must have it for trade and jobs. We don't need it for trade and jobs. Even the European Union has backed down from that argument. What we need is trade with Europe and the rest of the world, friendship and cooperation. We don't need to be members of this vast bureaucratic organisation in order to achieve that. The other thing is the loss of democracy, which, although membership of the EU costs us billions of pounds every year, which is wasted money, what's actually worse than that is our loss of democracy. The Germans calculated in 2006 that about 83% of new laws now come from the European Union, not from their own Parliament. And in this report they questioned whether Germany could really be called a functioning democracy anymore because of this fact. Well, it's equally true for the UK, similar type of country. 80-odd% of our laws now come from the institutions of the EU, which is not democratic. So how can we be a democracy? And as you know, I've been involved in things like the integration of the legal systems and European arrest warrants. We're losing our most basic protections under the law against unjust imprisonment and arrest. All kinds of things are happening now, which are totally insupportable in my view. And the European Union has this ambition to become a superstate to rival the United States. And I think it's in a very wrong road for us to go down, and Britain should leave as soon as possible.
We are living in a globalised world, though. Is it possible for the UK to just step out of the EU?
But what does that mean? What does a globalised world mean? In the early 19th century, we actually exported more goods around the world than we do today. There was international trade then. That's nothing new. That's always been going on. It's much easier to get on an aeroplane now and go anywhere you like very quickly, which is one of the reasons we have such a problem with uncontrolled immigration. That kind of globalisation, yeah, it's a reality, but that doesn't mean to say that you have to sacrifice your independence and self-governance in the modern world. In fact, quite the opposite. I think the problem with the modern world is that people are losing their control over their elected representatives and their governments, and we're becoming less democratic, and I think that's a thoroughly bad thing.
You have said in the past that the EU is an illegal state. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Yes, because under the Lisbon Treaty, it basically became the constitution of the European Union. Now, I know they changed the name. It was called the Constitution, but it's 99.9% the same as the old Constitution. We have a Constitution in this country, written down in different places, like, for example, the 1689 Bill of Rights, which says that the sovereign is the font of all power, and the sovereign cannot not acknowledge a higher power. Now, whether you're a monarchist or a republican, it doesn't matter. That's our constitution. What we did with the Lisbon Treaty is we acknowledged officially a higher authority. The Union, for example, now has a legal personality of its own. It can make treaties on its own. So that, in fact, means that in Britain we are living under an illegally constituted government. And as far as the rest of Europe's concerned, it's illegal in my view because they didn't ask the people of Europe whether they wanted it or not, because when they had referenda on the old constitution, they lost them in France and Holland. The only countries that voted for it are the ones that get, you know, so much out of the EU budget that they didn't want to risk leaving. So in my view, we're living in a completely illegally constituted state. In Britain, the Constitution of Europe under the Lisbon Treaty is illegal, and this is a very dangerous road to go down.
Talk to me about the legal integration that's taken place in the EU, particularly about the European arrest warrant.
European arrest warrant is the first part of a process whereby we are integrating our legal systems with those of the European Union. And of course what you've got to remember is that the Anglo-Saxon common law model adopted by the United States and Canada and Anglo-Saxon countries around the world is completely different from the continental Napoleonic system. Now, under our system, you have to be charged with a specific offence. The police have to gather the evidence before you're arrested. It goes to a trial. We have habeas corpus, all these things that we take for granted. On the continent, you can be arrested as a suspect. You can spend a year, 18 months in prison while they investigate the case before they even bring it to a court against you. Now, under the European arrest warrant, we got rid of all the safeguards. Now, if you are required for extradition under an European arrest warrant, the court deciding on that has very little power to refuse it. They're not allowed to look at the prima facie evidence. They have to take all legal systems around the EU as equally valid and non-corrupt and just and all the rest of it. So if you stand in that court accused of something which might be totally absurd, there is nothing that a British court can do to stop you being extradited. They have very, very limited powers. Now, what's also in the pipeline is things like the European Investigation Order. So we've got that coming along. We've got trials in absentia, which means that anybody can be tried in a European country, not even particularly be aware that this trial is going on. They are supposed to let you know, but let's say they can't contact you. You could suddenly find the British police turn up on your doorstep, they've arrested you, they will extradite you to Romania, Bulgaria, any country in the European Union, and you will go straight into the prison system, and the legal system here will not be able to protect you. And of course all this is going to be presided over by a European public prosecutor. Europol, the nascent European police force, which very interestingly in its charter has complete immunity for anything, or its officers have complete immunity for anything that they do or anything that they say in the course of their duties. Now, even the NKVD in Stalin's terror didn't have that protection against recourse if they did something wrong, technically anyway. But this is what we're lining up for ourselves, and we are destroying our own legal system.
You are UKIP's party spokesman on immigration. What's your view on a cap on immigration into the UK?
Immigration into our country has been out of control for a very long time now. Purely on the numbers basis, we are about the most densely populated country in Europe. I think slightly behind Holland, and you can take Malta out because it's a special case. We are one of the most densely populated countries in the world, if you actually look on a league table. And yet our population is set to grow from 62 million currently up to 70 million within the next 20-odd years, and thereafter up to 80, 85 million exponentially. It is absolutely absurd to have effectively unlimited and uncontrolled immigration into this country, what we have anyway from within the European Union, when we can't stop people coming, even if we wanted to, and we don't really control it from outside either. So, yes, you have to have very strict controls. The time has come to say we need an end to mass immigration, we need controlled immigration on a very limited level, and only where it benefits Britain, its people and its economy.
A recent report has shown that with a cap on immigration, British companies might find themselves short of workers, particularly as some immigrant workers are more highly skilled than their British counterparts. What do you say to that?
Oh, yes, I mean, I know quite a lot of foreign people, especially from Eastern Europe, who come to work here. They're highly qualified, they've got a great work ethic, they're lovely people. But if you look at the number of jobs created in the economy, 98% of the jobs created since Labour came to power in '97 up until last year went to migrant labour. Now, how does it benefit your economy to create jobs and 98% of them go to people, you know, who are migrants? You increase the overall gross domestic product of a country, but you're actually driving down the wages of the indigenous workers because people are coming in and working for lower wages. So you drive the overall the wages down for indigenous people, you put housing prices up, so everybody's actually worse off in the long run. And of course big business loves immigration because they get cheap labour, that's what they want. So I don't have anything against people who want to come here and better their lives. I fully understand why they want to do that, but it doesn't benefit the British economy or the British people to have this kind of immigration. What we would introduce would be very, very limited immigration for permanent settlement. And I've suggested a figure of no more than 50,000 a year, and even that could be revised downwards. But people could still come to work on a job permit basis for 1, 2, 3 years if we can't fill that post with an indigenous worker. And at the end of that process, if the person wanted to become a British citizen, they would have a right to apply for citizenship under the annual limit that we would allow in for that purpose.
Gerard Batten, thank you very much.
To find out more about who we are and what we stand for, go to the UK Independence Party website at www.ukip.org.